Before I get started, I do consulting on where you can move. I'll work with you to find the perfect place for you to move to. There's more information at the end of the video about that. Now let's get started. With the cost of living so high in major US cities and crime numbers going up, Americans are looking for better, cheaper, safer places to live. And with this whole new work from home concept being a thing, the question of moving for many of us isn't why anymore, it's where. Now, I spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong with the country and point out the many problems of our major US cities. So I think maybe it's time we look at a place that seems to be doing everything right and see what we can learn. Now, you can look at different lists online, and there's going to be a wide variety of opinions on where the best place to live is. Some lists look at affordability, some look at crime, some look at everything to try to create a list with some reliability. For the past 5 years, the small town of Morrisville, North Carolina kept showing up on these lists. Sure, Morrisville is a really safe place that's new and where you wouldn't ever see a bum or a tent downtown and where a murder happens once every 20 years. But to me, it was puzzling. Is this place that great? If so, what makes it so? So I went there to find out. It was a very pleasant day for a drive. The skies were bright blue and it was a chilly 53 degrees in late February of 2022. Could this place be that great, Morrisville? But there's really nothing here yet. The town of Morrisville has just about 33,000 people within its oddly shaped borders, but there's families moving here every day. This town's doubled in population since 2007. As you can see on this chart, Morrisville only had 1,000 people in 1990, and look at the growth rate since. Morrisville shares a border with many other desirable communities in the greater Raleigh metro area, places like Cary and Apex that also come up on lists of amazing places to move to. This whole area here on the western side of Raleigh is growing really fast because there's lots of room. Tech companies are spilling in, and brand new schools are opening up. Because it's new and modern and still unruined by Americans, people find this whole region to be a breath of fresh air. Most of Morrisville, though, isn't very interesting. In fact, it's not interesting at all. It's mile after mile of jam-packed housing developments and nice, neat, windy roads. The neighborhoods are all very pleasant and clean. To be honest, I saw more people walking around Morrisville than I do in most places I visit. But it's very vanilla. It's all very sterile. Is this what America wants? Perhaps. I mean, if you live in a state that's trashed and overwhelmed with police sirens, this would seem very welcoming, I suppose. Morrisville is proud of Morrisville. There's banners hanging up all over the byways and throughways all over this place. The average house here in Morrisville's gone up a lot. It's all the way up to almost $500,000. Many of the homes we're going to see on this drive certainly aren't very large, nor is there a lot of land. But since the average income is well over $100,000, the cost of a home is fairly affordable for the people who live here. Being at the center of technology and academic crossroads means a diverse international community. About 25% of the people moving here came from other countries. It's about 54% white and 28% Asian. Half of the community is between 25 and 45 years old, and more than half of the households are married couples with kids. That's a lot. This stretch right here is the main drag into town, or what will be the main drag into town. It's all under construction right now, but soon there's going to be more of a downtown city center core, because right now there is no Main Street Morrisville. You're actually going to see a lot of new construction here in this booming town everywhere you go. There's a technology center here too, which is one main reason so many people want to live in Morrisville. Microsoft has a presence here, as do Oracle, IBM, and Cisco. There's also several biotechnology companies here too. Look at this list of tech companies who make Morrisville their home. Remember, there's only 33,000 people here. But most of the parking lots for these large tech firms are pretty much empty. I don't know if that's because of COVID, and a lot of people are now working from home. That's something we can talk to Morrisville Councilman Steve Rao about when he joins me for a video chat here shortly. There's brand new parks all over Morrisville. None have tents in them. There's no signs of graffiti. There's no stabbings and shootings here. You can let your kids play without worrying about that. The playgrounds are all new and the grass is cut regularly. You don't see that often in America, do you, anymore? Much of what you'll see when you drive around Morrisville are homes and brand new shopping centers. All of them are the same shade of beige, but again, no beggars, panhandlers, needles on the ground, or poop on the sidewalks. Every now and then you're going to see some trailers scattered in random areas throughout town. That's a signature of growth here in North Carolina. The old holdouts who keep their land, even as developments take shape around them. As you can see, there's a lot of room for growth. Morrisville's been basically carved out of a pine forest. It's really beautiful. You just don't see this a lot very much in America. Now, why is Morrisville ranked so highly? The school system's ranked 29th in the state. Not eye-opening, but very good. I'd be willing to bet the kids in Morrisville schools rarely sass their teachers, and I doubt there's armed security guards and metal detectors here. There's also a community college in town called Wake Tech Community College. But Morrisville's been called the best place in the state, the best suburb in the state, the best suburb to raise a family in the state. The job growth here is 3% a year, and the future job growth is expected to be 45% over the next 10 years. Less than 3% of people who live here are unemployed. In terms of crime, I mentioned it earlier, it's hardly a thing in Morrisville. There were 24 violent crimes here all of last year. Can you imagine that? 2 violent crimes a month? In Chicago, there's been 2 violent crimes since this video started. Are we going to look back one day and think, there's a place that finally figured it out? Or will this place flame out too one day and be all overgrown with weeds and graffiti and fallen down like many cities before it? And how many sparkling new cities will this nation bear before there's no more room for any more new? Then what? But for now, let's assume the experts are correct and Morrisville is one of the best places you can live. We'll just have to wait and see how it does turn out in the future. But what can we learn from Morrisville? Well, let's talk to Councilman Steve Rao, who's going to join me on a call right now. Okay, everybody, so joining us right now, we have City Councilman Steve Rao from Morrisville. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, great to see you. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and talking about Morrisville. So a lot of times I talk about the challenges of the country, and I show a lot of the bad side of the country, but a lot of people have been writing me, and they're like, how about you show a good city so that we can kind of have some frame of reference on what a good place looks like and what a good place is doing in this country. And Morrisville is a Raleigh suburb. It's really exploded lately. It's in the news all the time as being one of the best places you can live in the country. So I went to Morrisville and drove around for a while. And I wanted to ask you, what makes Morrisville so great?
Well, thank you, Nick, for visiting Morrisville. And well, a couple of things make Morrisville great. I mean, first of all, we are we've been recently ranked the #1 city living in North Carolina, an all-American city by National Civic League. And we've come from just being a small, sleepy town of just a few hundred residents to a thriving and dynamic town, an international city, a diverse city, with almost 55% of our population from the nation of India. We have a tremendous technology and innovation with 10% of all public companies are headquartered in Morrisville, including Cisco, Lenovo, IBM, all the top companies, right? And we have the game of cricket in Morrisville, which is a worldwide sport. So all of these things, I think, have created this environment of, it's kind of the American dream. American democracy is best. People coming from all walks of life, engaging with technology. I lead a lot of our technology initiatives, smart city initiatives, putting it all together, right? So that's a long answer to your question, but that's why Morrisville's great. But it's also because of the vision of our council, our staff, the investments we're making. It's just been excellent, wonderful.
Yeah. A lot of big cities have problems with crime, homelessness, drug use, poverty, bad schools, uninvolved community, shortages of teachers, nurses, police. You guys don't seem to have that. Why is that?
Crime. Well, we have a great police department. We just swore our new police chief Peter Costa. Outstanding police department. Outstanding town manager Martha Page, our CEO. Deputy manager, our assistant manager Braden Zudema. All of the directorates. I mean, these are just amazing people that are so dedicated into their roles. So one reason is that we have a great staff and a highly educated workforce. A very educated, one of the highest median incomes in the country. And, you have crime in any city, but we just don't have a lot of it in Morrisville because I think people are happy, and we're only 15 minutes from Duke, Carolina State, and it's just exciting, right?
Hmm. Is it a matter of the fact that the community is so new? Is that part of the reason why it's doing so well? Because you get the communities that have been around cities that are older, they start to fray at the edges. You get some rundown areas. Morrisville's so brand new, it's almost like is that part of the reason why it's just such a great place to be? Is because it's so new?
Yeah, it's just new. I mean, new development, new industry, new innovation. These kinds of things are just exciting, and it's just really exciting to be able to be a part of this new, vibrant. And lately, Nick, there's just been so much positive energy about Morrisville. To be a part of a team that's involved with all these decisions. We're making radio shows, we're making news shows. Everyone around the state wants to come to Morrisville. Economic development, companies like Microsoft, and before that, Apple announced close to Morrisville. $1 billion life science campus is moving to Morrisville. Syneos Health, which is a public company. Invitae, which took over the old mall near the airport, the outlet mall. These are all companies coming in to create the jobs of the future, and it's quite exciting.
How do you you guys are a young enough city that you can, I guess, deal with the problem of affordable housing where you can design parts of your community or plan for a way that you can make it affordable for certain people or set certain parts of the city aside for affordable housing versus just all of it's going to be just tract homes for middle class families. Is that something that you guys are going to try to address? Is to try to figure out a way to work into your growth plan places where poorer Americans can afford to live?
That's a great question, Nick. You're asking great questions. Absolutely. This is the second big area we're hearing, not only in Morrisville, but around the Triangle region and North Carolina, and that is housing prices skyrocketing, making places more affordable to live. Affordable housing, or what is known as workforce housing. So we in Morrisville did adopt an affordable housing plan. And now we're implementing that plan. We're looking at how do we invest in our town, like what Cary has done, like what Apex is doing, so that we actually have affordable housing initiatives, right? Where we can actually allocate what percentage of our housing stock will be affordable housing, so that as an Apple comes and more people are moving in, that we have places for them to live, right? That we have places for our first responders, that we have places for our teachers. These are all the things that we need, right? So that's exactly what we're focused on, right? And we've also negotiated some deals with developers where we actually had investments in affordable housing, so they would designate a certain number of units as affordable housing units. So these are the exciting things that we have going on, and I'm really excited about being committed to affordable housing and working with Wake County. They're getting grants from the federal government. Let's not forget President Biden's infrastructure bill did invest in affordable housing, but he's also calling under the Build Back Better, which hasn't passed yet, for about 500 million more affordable homes, right? About, I think, $500 billion of affordable housing or somewhere around there. So hopefully we can get some of those dollars coming in North Carolina and we can put it to use.
What is affordable housing? If you were to pick a number right now, we're in 2022, February. Rent and cost of a home, what would those numbers be within what you think would be reasonable in Morrisville? The cost of a home, what do you think is affordable, and what's rent? Do you think?
Well, affordable housing is traditionally, traditionally defined as 80% AMI. So it's whatever the housing price is, and you pay 80% less the cost, and so it'd be usually like 700, 800 a month, maybe 900 a month. Those are the numbers I see. It's usually 80% AMI, which is sort of like paying less the cost of what you would pay for like a $1,000 or $1,200 or $2,000 a month rent, affordable housing. Also, there are affordable housing options out there that go beyond just like multifamily. So we're looking for options of, would developers be willing to do a single family affordable housing unit or a townhome, right? So that's one thing. We have to get more people focusing in on that, so they know right?
Hmm.
What we can do, right? So
Do you guys have any homeless folks in Morrisville at all?
not that I can see. Some I've seen some that were struggling a little bit, but not much. No, not much. Not around where
What,
we live.
what are you
But
going to do when the first tents go up in Morrisville? How are you going to deal with that?
yeah, I mean, well, I think we have to be, sensitive to the situations that people are under, particularly disenfranchised minority communities, and making sure that we are being sensitive to the fact that we're not just living in our own bubble and not realizing. I mean, I grew up in West Virginia, a lot of poverty back in my home state, and it's something to consider, right? We just have to, again, but if that happened, absolutely, I would not be a happy camper if I saw people putting up tents in Morrisville or Cary.
Steve, do you think my family and I could move to Morrisville?
Absolutely, move to Morrisville. We're come on in right now.
Yeah, I'm happy. I think you should move to Morrisville. It's a great place to live. What do you think the two or three big reasons are that cities that were once bright and shiny and new start to get less desirable? If you had to name a couple reasons why that city would go from being an A+ city to a C+ city.
I think just well, crime. As you bring in more people, you get more crime, which makes the quality of life go down. I think what ruins a city oftentimes also is the culture of the town. Where you start bringing in national kind of partisan politics into a town, that's not good, right? Social media has become very divisive. So just people using social media platforms, saying negative things, doing negative things, that's not a good thing, right? So I think these are all things that that affect the future, right? And they affect the quality of life. So a good city, you start taking it for granted. You don't start planning for the future. You don't start leveraging innovative technology. You could become a dinosaur pretty quick, right? And so I think it really takes vision and reading a lot and keeping up with trends, being involved with the League of Municipalities, being involved with the National League of Cities. These are all things that we can do moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, you guys have very little crime right now. How does the city continue to? Is it just continuing to enforce crime? Is it creating a community so that people don't want to commit crimes? Like, how does the city continue to remain relatively crime free like you guys are?
I think you have to provide a high quality of life for your residents. You have to preserve a small town feel, even though you continue to grow, which we've done a remarkable job in Morrisville with. That's with family fun festivals, whether it's Easter egg hunts, spectacular trail, Christmas tree lighting, Santa Claus visiting the Smart Shuttle, Santa Claus visiting the farmers market, creating that sense of family, that sense of belonging, that sense of identity is critically important as you grow. And we in Morrisville have continued to do that. That's one of the things consistently people tell me they like about Morrisville, that's family friendly, that they feel that they're only a phone call away from their leaders. They feel very nice to be a part of something that they feel like they have an identity with.
One other quick question. So we drove around the tech hub area where Microsoft and Oracle and Channel Advisor and all the areas are. A lot of the parking lots were empty. Is that a COVID thing where people are still working from home? It was a weekday. There were like large buildings with a lot of empty parking lots, and I was wondering what was up with that.
Oh, in terms of, yeah. Well, what has happened, first of all, is that the infrastructure, the office infrastructure we have had has not been used as frequently because of the pandemic. So many companies were in a return or at home work policy, and so they haven't really been going back to work. Now, as we lift mask mandates and as companies require us to go back in, this may change, right? So that's why you're seeing a lot of empty parking lots. But what happens, and this is something, as I read in Fareed Zakaria's book, A Post-Pandemic World, what will a post-COVID world be like, right? Will it be a return away from going back to the office every day, 9 to 5. Before COVID, I worked in Raleigh, and I still work there, but I'm do my political stuff, then I do my work stuff. I go in once a week. I don't know how I went in every day, right? My quality of life, I've just gotten so used to this life. So I think that's going to affect the commercial office market, right? Is there going to be a need for offices, right? Is there going to be a need for retail, right? Uh, there will be a need, but are we going to need the big skyscrapers where everyone's going to be driving in, right? So I think that problem you saw in Morrisville is something that we're not talking a lot about, Nick, but I think it's something that we're going to have to start talking about is what is the future of commercial office? Because you mentioned that. When I was in downtown Raleigh, I went on Saturday to interview on a radio show. All the cars that were parked on the side of the street were at the hotel in the Marriott, but the stores were all closed.
Oh, I know. It was dead. I was in Raleigh the day before I went to Morrisville.
So normally you're there,
sad.
even Starbucks was closed and everything is dead. So everything's boarded up and closed. And so this is very concerning. Now, I do believe, because I listen to Fareed Zakaria a lot, that cities will always thrive because people need a place to gather and meet. And innovation always comes from the cities. So even through the history of the world, whether it was the Renaissance, or even after many of the devastations that we had around the world in the U.S., cities always came back. Let's not forget Chicago went down in a fire and they built the skyscrapers there, right? New York City came back many times, but even after 9/11. So cities will never die. But you could eventually, with more broadband deployment, have people that are more attracted to come to the rural areas. And that's what John Chambers, he's the former CEO of Cisco and from my home state of West Virginia. He's a family friend of mine. He's actually working with West Virginia to create this idea of becoming a startup state because he believes that people would like to live in the mountains. And that's one thing they should think about is come back to West Virginia and start a business where we both grew up. I knew his parents, and now he ran a multi-billion-dollar company. That's the bottom line, right? So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So what can communities that are struggling learn from the way Morrisville runs itself and learn from how Morrisville is? Are there any takeaways that people can take away from the way Morrisville exists and what it's all about that they can learn from lessons on how you guys have done things?
Well, one lesson you can learn, I'm also an opinion writer for TechWire, and which is the WRL major news station here in the area. And one thing we can do is we can take a look at your niche, what you have unique to yourself. So I think it's critically important to know what you want and focus on whatever your unique is, and the fact that we're international, we're home to many Indian temples. Now we're starting Diwali festivals, Holi festivals, really creating this sense of, an international community, right? So my advice to any community is understand what makes you different, hire very well and seasoned staff with lots of experience that comes from other areas, and then bring that vision and execute it. And so it comes down and then have a council that gets along. And the thing I like about government is that I can work with my colleagues as a family, and I'm not in the partisan game of Republican over Democrat, where, a lot of pressure right now for me to go seek a seat in the General Assembly, but it's a very different environment, right? I mean, you go in, you pick a team, and your job is you're the minority party. You just have to argue against whatever the majority party wants, right? Whereas in this instance, there is no label. That's what makes city government so fun. You're creating, and you can see the things that you create. Our newest RigTech RTP, which is this campus, a STEM campus. That's a great campus in Morrisville, right? And it's going to be a new school for computer science students, high school students that want to do early career high school. So it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are you saying there's no political infighting in Morrisville? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, we have political differences. I mean, the mayor and I don't agree with everything politically. We're friends, we're colleagues. I'm a little bit more of a moderate. But it doesn't define, what defines Mayor Cawley and me and the council is what is in the best interest for Morrisville. What are we doing to execute the great things that we're going to do together as a team? And I'll give him credit. We are a team and we all bring different strengths to the team. And I think this council has been very successful because of the diverse experiences that we bring together. And when you put that, we have Fortune 500 experience, we have software engineering experience, I have media and business development and sales experience. So I'm sort of the salesman of the council. And then you've got Liz Johnson, who's the mayor pro tem now, who has a lot of 25 years. She's been there, institutional knowledge, sort of like the mother of the council. Like someone that's nurturing and taking care of us, right? And that's why I think Morrisville's been very successful. This is my fourth term, and I've worked with the mayor now for 7 years, along with a couple of my colleagues. So we've got a good thing working. We got a good thing going on.
Yeah, I know a lot of big cities. It's the political infighting is part of the reason that they aren't doing as well as they once were, because people have an agenda that they want to push for the benefit of their own selves rather than the benefit of the community. So you got to keep that in mind when you're running the city. I mean, you can't have people run with their agendas as part of their platform. So
exactly.
So Morrisville's new enough that there isn't really like a hub yet, right? I know I saw the main construction area where you guys are trying to build like a city center, town center kind of an area, but right now it's pretty much a lot of shopping, tons of neighborhoods, lots of parks, but there's not really a central gathering point yet, right?
No, and so that's a great question, Nick. So we are working on a town center plan at downtown Morrisville, which is 10 acres that we own on Jeremiah Street. And it's a great opportunity for us to work with a developer, which we eventually picked through an RFP, Sing Development. And they're now proposing a development which would be mixed use, office, home style retail. And that retail would also be near a multifamily residential living, right? So you're right. It would be a central gathering place for everyone in Morrisville to come in. And would be a really great place for families to enjoy music, festivals, to get that one central place rather than the way it is now where people go into town hall or they go into parks.
Mm-hmm. Is it tough for a community or challenging for a community to be part of a community and get together when there's not really a gathering point yet? Is that a challenge for you guys? You know, trying to define and shape a community when the community doesn't have a place in.
It has been. I mean, we typically don't have a lot of, normally when we do our fireworks celebrations, we do them. Well, we actually moved it to Town Hall Drive, the main, this last summer. And it was the first one we did in a year because the last year it was canceled because of COVID. And, I think that, at the end of the day, it's been a challenge because we can't leave. We have to go to Cary to a bigger place, a bigger event, bigger venue. We can't do, we sometimes have to go to, we don't have meeting space. So we have to go usually to Cary. So this is a challenge because, most of the big events you have to do in the parks, and if you can't do it in the parks, then you have to do it somewhere else. Right. So, it's something that we have to work on.
Mm-hmm. Right. How do you manage the growth? You've grown so fast. Morrisville has. The Raleigh area is one of the fastest growing metros. It's just going to get more crowded as word spreads because it's still somewhat affordable and it's a very nice place to live. How are you guys going to manage all the growth and all the people that are going to want to move to Morrisville?
This is the biggest challenge that we've faced. I think the biggest bone of contention we've had within our community for two reasons: overcrowded roads, and congested traffic, and then also schools, right? And the fact that we just can't handle the growth and that we've grown too fast. So I think the couple of things we've done to handle that concern. The first thing is we just drafted a letter to the school board to ask about solutions because one of our newest schools in Morrisville is overcapped and they're going to have to start busing people out to, or not busing people, but the school is like 30 miles away. So it's going to be tougher for many of those Morrisville families, right? So working with the school board to address that issue, making sure that our town is involved in these reassignment decisions, these school decisions, right? The second thing is slowing down the growth by reducing the number of rezonings. So over the last 7 years, I started seeing a lot of rezonings where developers would come in and say, this is single family, low density. I want it to be medium density or high density. So we come in, do a rezoning, we get a lot of investments, we get a lot of conditions. And now I think the thing is, it'll be harder to do that because we did zone back to more single family and medium density, right? So these are things I think that we're doing. Land use is important, how we handle that. And then finally, the DOT, working with the DOT to make sure that our Department of Transportation, a multi-billion-dollar agency, as cars are more fuel efficient, as we're pushing more electrical vehicles on the road eventually, you know what that means for North Carolina? Less money coming into the coffers from the gas tax. And so all the different projects, less money coming in. So we have done bonds to invest in transportation. Our most recent road, McCrimmon Bypass, huge road, lots of investment coming into that. And also we just passed a bond for Airport Boulevard extension. So these are the two roads that we need to focus in on. And it's transportation, schools, and land use. Those are the three areas I think that we have to focus. And transit. The final thing I'll say is transit. So the proudest thing I'm proud of is our smart city initiatives, which is using technology to enhance the quality of life for our residents. And one way we're doing that is with a smart shuttle. So I can take on my phone an app, order a shuttle to take me to 15 nodes in Morrisville, and I don't have to be in my car. So these kinds of innovative solutions can take traffic off the road, can enhance our quality of life.
Mm-hmm. So challenges, what are some challenges that Morrisville is going to have moving forward? Is it just managing the growth? I mean, every place can't be as perfect as it looks from the outside, like Morrisville does. What are some, I guess, the downsides of being a new city that's growing so fast?
I think the biggest challenge is growth. That really is the thing. I mean, I think schools and transportation and congestion on the roads, and how do you handle all these, and also as we the thing I'm proudest of, in addition to smart cities, is the sustainability efforts. So just last night at council meeting, we had a sustainability master plan put forward, and that master plan really calls out for reducing carbon emissions and all the things we can do. And the bottom line is that as we address the importance of sustainable communities, we have to also preserve trees. And we need to have more open space. And so this is something, our greatest challenge is, how do you have open space when people are wanting to develop every square mile? And we don't have much left in Morrisville. The McCrimmon area, where the Wake Competition Center is, that's the greatest place, right? But this is something I think that is important, and we're going to have to, but I would say growth, transportation, schools, and sustainability in our environment, and trees and open space. Those are the four greatest challenges for any new city. How do we balance all of that while at the same time also providing affordable housing solutions as well? Because I think it's going to be important as we attract a young demographic. A lot of young people don't want to get a house initially. They want to have a place they can live, where they can walk to work, where they can come back, they can go for a workout, walk a greenway, everything within their 5-mile radius, right? And during the pandemic, it's been nice that I've been able to walk over to the gym, swim, run, do different things, and not have to feel like I have to get in a car to go everywhere. So now I'm used to that life, right? So.
Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, We should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.